and everyone has to stop, and it gets sort of difficult, and the sort of the rhythm you were having in the conversation starts to kind of fall apart. That's kind of hard to also deal with. And then finally, let's camera action. If anyone has ever been on camera, like a TV show or on the news, and you can kind of see yourself while you're talking, that also eats up some of your attention and your energy. And think about that. Most people, when they're on Zoom calls, guess who they're looking at? Anyone know who they're looking at mostly? Themselves, right? It's hard not to look at yourself when you're talking. And so when you're looking at yourself, there's also this like inner dialogue about like, do I look stupid right now? Can people see that, you know, did they see that I just ate something? You know, that is also just another drain on your reserves, right? So I'm actually not advocating that you turn off the video. I would say that because I think having the video also makes it easier to connect with people. But again, if we can limit the amount of time that we have Zoom meetings, the better, which gets to my next point here. Must it be virtual? Not every meeting has to be a virtual meeting. And I really want to get on this campaign that if we can do it in a phone call, let's do it in a phone call. Even if we can do it over email, let's do it over email. That's right, Shelly, kids running in the middle of your thing, right? You're worried like, oh, are they going to see my messy room? Is another thing that sort of people are worried about, right? But I just want to encourage folks to really think twice about whether it has to be done over video. If there are slides to be looked at, if there's a spreadsheet we got to work on, that makes total sense. If it's a really difficult conversation where you need to sort of get a visual on someone to read their cues and, you know, reassure people or communicate something that's really difficult, that makes sense to me. If it's like a regular half-hour check-in just to go through a couple items and you already have a pretty strong relationship with someone, make it a phone call. I feel like we're actually spending too much time doing it this way, and it's just sucking up too much time. Okay, and then finally, downtime, as I talked about before. Try to build in the moments in between, because I feel like that's what we've lost quite a bit. This is part of the standard thing, like there is this meeting black hole. Let's make sure we're keeping track of who's gonna do what next. This is just a way to make sure we track that. I actually wanna skip to Pmail, because I mentioned that in the beginning. And I know a few people on this have actually seen this before, and it sounds like some people are experts on this. So as I reflect back on the number of emails people have in their inbox, we were counting not in the dozens, we were counting in the thousands for some people. It's a lot of emails, right? So this dude, Merlin Mann, many years ago, based on work that David Allen did in this, and I'll share more about those resources in a moment, talked about this idea of not living in your inbox. And what that means is that there are some people who, if you ask them, what's on your agenda for today, they don't look at their calendar, they scroll through their inbox to see what the email said the thing was that I have to get done today, or what meeting was going on today. Not a great use of your time and attention, right? Because that's harder to find than just finding those things in your calendar. But also that people were just holding on to emails forever, right? For the people who have thousands of emails, do you really think that you're ever going to look at email number 345? I just don't think it's going to happen, because that was what, like a few months ago at least, maybe a year ago. That person may, you know, who knows what that project is now, right? That person may have left that job for all we know. And yet we're still holding on to these emails. So Merlin Mann talks about trying to get to inbox zero, that it's actually possible for you all to say that your number is zero, that every day you would get to zero. And I'm going to explain how you do that. The concept here is to think about email as a medium, that there's a place for everything. We want to get to zero and really want to think about this being action oriented. Remember I said this is not time management, it is action management. And the metaphor that Merlin Mann uses is, imagine if you worked at a sandwich shop. People come into a sandwich shop, and they ask for a sandwich. And so someone has to actually, let's see. Someone gives you this, you know, you get like an order, right? They sort of indicate what they want. But do people really care more about the order itself, or do they care about the sandwich, right? They care about the sandwich. And I want you to think about the email, an email being just the order. It's just something that communicates what needs to happen next. if we are just like holding on to orders and not making sandwiches, we're going to get fired, right? We will not last in that job very long. Our job is to figure out what is the sandwich that I need to make here and get it as soon as possible so we can keep things moving and get more orders in here. Storing and organizing orders is not a recipe for success in the sandwich industry, right? We want to make sandwiches. So just keep that metaphor in mind. So how do we do it? There are 5 actions and 5 folders. Here are the 5 actions. So every time you get an email, you're going to do one of these things. You're going to do, defer, delegate, archive, or delete. I'll explain more. Here are the 5 folders. Add action, at read, at waiting, projects, and archive. These are kind of types of folders, actually. All right, so let me explain how this works. Okay, here we go. So let's first talk about the actions. Do. So do means that there's something that I get in an email that requires no more than 2 minutes to get done. If you can get it done in less than 2 minutes, then you do it right on the spot. You don't save that email. You don't put it in like, you know, I'm going to work on this later on. Just do it right now. And the reason why 2 minutes is the threshold is that it's about how long it takes for you to organize that email and then come back to it to do it later. So it's just not a good use of your time. If you can get it done in 2 minutes right now, get it done. So that's what do is. Defer is things that are actionable, right? It requires a sandwich to be made, if you will, but it's going to take longer than 2 minutes, and I don't have that time right now. So I'm going to defer action until later. If you're following me, just give me a thumbs up. Make sense? Great. Now, delegate. A lot of you folks have staff, right? So delegate means this is actionable, but it's not for me to do. It's for my teammate to do. It's for my staff to do. It's for my boss to do. I'm going to delegate that. And then you have archive. This is actually not something that requires action right now, but could be something that later on I need. It could be a list of resources. It could be some cool stuff to read or to do on the weekend, right? So I'm not actually committing to doing anything quite yet, but there might come a time when I really want to do something or use that. I want to keep that handy somewhere. And so the action there is to archive it, put it somewhere for safekeeping for later. And then finally, the last action is my favorite one, delete. There's a lot of stuff we get that should be deleted that we don't. And so that's a really, really important action here. I frankly try to delete it more than I should because there's just so much stuff we hold on to. Okay, so those are the actions. The folders are these folders here. Add action is a folder that you put in your email client, or whatever you use, Outlook or Gmail, whatever you want to use. And basically, every time that you defer an action, it's actually going to go into the add action folder, right? That's where you know these are all things that are actionable, but that are going to take longer than 2 minutes. And when I have time to get to work, I don't have to scroll through a million emails to know what needs action. They're all sitting in this folder waiting for me to do something about them. Make sense? So that's what add action is. At read is sometimes you're going to get stuff. Someone says, hey, just read this thing. It might be a cool thing for you to do, or to, you know, it's related to our work. It seems pretty, you know, seems like something that you might be interested in. Then you know exactly if you're like on a hold, or if you're in a really boring Zoom meeting and you want to read something when someone is droning on and on, you now have a folder with all the cool stuff you want to read. There it is, right? At waiting is actually one of the coolest folders here, because here's something that I also struggle with. I'm sure a lot of us on this Zoom do. Sometimes you want to delegate something to someone, and then you forgot you delegated it. And then 2 weeks later, it comes back and blows up in your face. It didn't get done. You forgot to follow up with the person who you delegated it to. And so things that I would delegate, let's say to Gail, I would stick a copy of that email into the at waiting folder, which tells me, here are the things that I am waiting for someone else to do. And then when I sit down with Gail and have my weekly check-in with her or bi-weekly check-in with her, I can go in there and say, like, hey, Gail, was this thing done? And once I know it's done, I take that email and I toss it. And now my at waiting folder becomes this like really useful tickler for things that I have passed on to other people that still require action. Just because I delegated doesn't mean that I have no responsibility for it. So that's a way to sort of track that. Projects are folders that are tied to a particular, I'm sorry, emails that are tied to a particular project, right? So if I have a big grant that's due next month and I'm getting tons of emails about that grant I need to look at, I just stick them all into a project folder. And when I'm working on that grant, I go right in there. All I need is there waiting for me to help drive that work. And then finally, archive, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. That stuff before that I said maybe it's not actionable now, but seems like it could be useful, goes into an archive folder. And so it kind of looks like this. Let me show you how this is a very old screenshot. But this was like my own Outlook side panel here. And you can see that I have the action folder here, the read and the waiting at the top here. The reason that they are at the top is because of the @ symbol in the beginning. I want them to be at the very top so that as I am looking at email, I can just quickly put them in the right folder without having to scroll down at all. It's always there at the top. And then you'll see I have a couple of project folders. So these are a couple trips that we were doing. This was a big meeting we had and a trip I had to Salt Lake City. And every time I had an email about those things, I knew exactly where to put it. And the week before I went to Salt Lake City, as I was getting ready for that meeting, they were all there ready for me, and I could just look at that without having to do a search or scan through 1,000 emails. And then you can see I have an archive folder in there. It could be, you know, family stuff. It could be fun things to do, interesting things to read. It's all there. And then I would, you know, literally every day, I'm going through my inbox and just dropping emails into the right folder. So that's how this works. I'm going to ask the folks who said that they had inbox 0. Is this what you're using to do that? And if not, I'd love to hear what you're doing. I think we have just like a couple more seconds here. Who wants to just weigh in on their own system?
Hi. I mean, like, I don't know that I necessarily have a system. It just makes me really anxious to not have my inbox at 0. I don't archive anything. I just don't answer anything until I address it. And I just
Yep.
make sure that I started a long time ago. I just like don't let things build up. So once I've cleared it out, I make sure that like at least every few days I go through everything and address that. But I mean, at first, if there's a big backlog of them, I'd say maybe trying to tackle like a small amount and then moving forward putting systems in place that like either you can archive them like you said or you address them as
Yep.
they come.
Yeah, that's great. And I think the fact that you've been able, I mean, sometimes anxiety actually helps you to get motivated to do stuff, right? I'm not promoting anxiety here, but it seems like you're actually responding in a way to lower your anxiety, which is great. There are times when you get so busy you can't even do that, right? So I would still say it's helpful to have a system to know when you do get in there and try to move things around, you know where it's going. I want to respond to David's question about like, well, when do you do this? That's why it's called Pmail, by the way. It's called you're processing your mail. You're not just reading or checking. You're really processing your mail. Okay, we have a minute left here. So I would say that it does make sense to me to say try to build in time throughout the day. You know, maybe 2 or 3 times throughout the day when you're doing this processing. You really don't want to leave your virtual office with more than 0 in your inbox. They should all be in the right place. You've not done all the work yet. There are things in your action folder, right? But you know what's in there. It should be in there. And tomorrow morning when you get to work, boom, you're working on it. So my recommendation is to do that. And to Rachel's question about like carving out a week to actually do all this, I'll leave you with this notion that some people have had, especially if you are, again, measuring email in the thousands. You may want to declare email bankruptcy and just say, the last month I'm still going to work on. Before that, it's over. It's not going to happen. And just sort of get a clean slate and get moving. You guys were awesome. Thank you all so much.
So we want to bring her up to the stage. But before we do that, I just want to make sure that everybody's back into the main space. So let's just give it. Alita, are you there? Because I'm just going to hand it off to you now.
Yeah.
See if she's back. All right, there she is. Look at that. Verizon came through. Looking HD. All right, Alita, it's all yours.
Just want to say glad to see everyone. So glad to interact with you guys in this space. Sorry about my technical difficulty earlier, but I'm here as always, and the Technical Assistance Resource Center always here for you guys. Good to see you.
All right. on that note, we are going to pass it off to the MC with the most, the person that has carried us through this entire process. Listen, you know, Felicia said a lot of things about me, but listen, there is nowhere in the world any of this would have happened without Lori. Lori, are you there?
I am. Jorge, you're going to make me cry. Don't do that.
Oh, please, Lori, you deserve it. Outstanding job. I mean, it's been a great day so far, and I know it's going to end great, so just thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. I am just so happy to see everyone's face, and I miss everybody so much. And I love that you're all here today. And I know we're a few minutes over. I'm only going to keep you for 4 more minutes, I promise. So hang in there with me. Jorge, can you pull up that reflection slide for me?
Yeah, I'm bringing it up right now. Just give me un segundo.
I know you all just came back from your wonderful breakout sessions. I don't know about you, but I was so inspired by Jackie. She just did a fabulous session on family engagement, and all of these are recorded. So we're going to send out the links. I highly encourage you to go in and listen to all of the sessions you weren't able to do. But if you could just take a moment in the chat box, if you can just write down, you know, something you learned today, something you're going to take away, something you can implement, hopefully in the fall if schools reopen. Just take a moment and add that to the chat box for us. I want to memorialize our learning. We'll be able to capture all of this and send it out to everybody. I wanted to ask people to join in and unmute, but in order for time, I'm not going to ask you to do that today. If you can just put your thoughts and your reflections in the chat box.
Well, since I'm unmuted, I'll just say great job again.
Great. Laura's saying that she's going to leave with some great tips to make her Zoom presence more engaging. We could all use that help, let me tell you. All right, Jorge, let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please.
Sure.
Just some reminders as we close out. Very soon from the resource centers, we're going to send out a fall professional development survey. So please answer the survey and give us your feedback. Jonathan mentioned that the year 3 attendance roster is going to be due. That's going to be due July 15th. And look out for an announcement if you have used services. There's going to be another report to help you with that. The APR, woohoo, we love the APR. The window is now open for summer 2019. You should have all received an email with that information. Make sure you're entering it. Fall and window, the fall window and the spring window are going to open soon as well. And each window this year is going to reopen. So if you have documents at your school site that you're not able to access right now, all windows are going to reopen, so you'll have time to do that. Don't forget to do your QSA. Allie's on the line. She'd be very disappointed if you don't do it. And look for, Elizabeth briefly mentioned there's going to be a new attendance system, new attendance system coming. There's going to be trainings on that coming up very soon, so be on the lookout. And the last thing that we want to ask you to do today is to do a survey for Measurement Incorporated on the symposium and whether or not we were able to meet our goals and objectives and what we wanted to provide for you today. So there you can scan the QR code. There is also a link, or he's going to put that in the chat box.
Yep.
Cool. Please take a moment before you leave and check out with us that please give us the feedback. We're always open to it. We're here to support, and we would love to get your feedback. So please take that moment. And with that, Felicia, Alita, Melissa, Lisa, I'm going to ask us all just to come back up and say our final words.
Hi, everyone. Be safe and well. I hope you enjoyed the conference.
Hey everyone, it's the Jubilee Melissa, always here, happy and energized. But just wanted to say thank you all for being here. I love looking at my screen and seeing a lot of my program directors and executive directors on here, and being able to see you face to face virtually is not as best as I would like it to be physically, but it's great seeing you on here. Thanks, Jorge, Tom, everyone who was able to make this happen.
We're gonna ask Elizabeth to give her our shout out. Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, you there?
Yes, I'm here. I just want to shout out to everybody. I mean, it's great seeing all your faces, and we'll be together again soon, I hope. But in the meantime, this is the next best thing, and we proved that we could do it, right? Everybody, we all pulled together, and everybody did an amazing job. Thanks so much.
And from the rest of state, most of State Technical Assistance Resource Center, just thank you to every single person that participated, all 61 from our area. It's always great collaborating with the New York City TARC. Those are some of the finest ladies I know. We just had a really good time planning this symposium. And again, just thank each and every one of you for participating. Be safe, keep hope alive, know that, keep your heads up, and know that, you know, when tough times occur, we stick together and we just push through. Thank you. Jorge, you rock.
Thanks. All right, folks.
Jorge is the best. Thank you, everyone. Don't forget your evaluation. Thank
Right,
you so much.
I'm going to put the link back up. If folks want to hear some sounds while they get that eval out of the way for Jonathan today, because Jonathan is going to be extremely grateful if you fill it out right now. Lori, did you have one more thing to say?
Nope, that was it. Oh, I wanted to shout you out, Jorge. You are fabulous, and we could not have done this without you. And thank you.
Thank
And
you.
happy
Thank you,
birthday,
guys.
again, Grant. Happy birthday.
That's right. Happy birthday, Grant. I want to thank everybody for being involved today and just engaged. It was a wonderful, wonderful day. Definitely uplifting to see everybody connected. And, you know, hopefully we will see each other physically sometime soon. And if not, it's going to come regardless. So let's just say we will see each other sometime soon. Okay, y'all? So, bye, everybody. All right. Well, if you don't want to listen to the tracks, you can come off, but we're going to play some music.
Hey.
And we want folks to get that eval done because that's just going to make everyone's life a lot easier. All right?
I'm also going to say that if I would love it if you do it now, and if you don't, we're going to track you down. So there's no easy out.
He has your email addresses. He will track you down.
No one wants that. Jonathan will take you out, folks. All right, so let's get that. Let's get that done.
I wouldn't go that far.
And make sure you put your names in the chat box. That's the accountability factor. You have to put your names and sign out.
All right. All right. Let's see what's.